Alright, Trial Mob, welcome back to another Infinity Lore video. Now, last time that I spoke to you guys, we were speaking about the Ariadnans, and today we're going to be doing a little bit more of the same. So, where we left off yesterday, or should I say in the last video, was that Ariadna had been a ship that was built together by the united efforts of many of the nations of Earth and was sent to a planet called Dawn through a wormhole. Now, when they reached the other side of the wormhole behind them had collapsed unbeknownst to them, and they were cut off from the rest of the world for about 200 years. Now, they did a great job of settling down on Dawn and basically figuring things out and surviving on their own. However, where there's any planet that has life, there's going to be prey, but more importantly, there's going to be predators. And in this case, apex predators. Now, on the planet of Dawn, the apex predators were these creatures known as the Antipodes. Now, the Antipodes were creatures that were very, very similar to what we would refer to today as dire wolves, right? So very large wolves, size of tigers. But the big difference here is that they're less wolf-like in their overall biology and a little bit closer to what we would say maybe apes. So the body is definitely canine-like, but the front legs are a bit more ape-like, right? So yes, they can run on them, but they can also stand on their hind legs, and they have enough motor skills in those front arms to be able to grab weaponry and make stuff and build stuff and carve things out. So there's definitely a lot more to them than just being feral wolves. And in fact, they were very, very smart in groups of, should I say, 3. Now, here's the problem. When you have less than 3 of them, their overall, it's kind of like each one of them adds like an IQ buff. And so for each one you have less, that buff goes down. And so what happens when the Ariadnans initially start to, find them one at a time, 2 at a time, they assume they're feral beasts and dispatch with them, properly. Not to find out later that basically they are in fact very, very smart, and they come from well-organized, well-put-together tribes that are massive in number. And a huge war conflict basically jumps out in full force and causes massive, massive destruction. So the Ariadnans deal with that for many, many years. And as far as I can tell, this, we could say, civil war that is going on this planet hasn't stopped just yet. Now, here's the deal about the Antipodes. So just like the blue people from the Na'vi from Avatar, where they can basically pass on their, we could say, their DNA code through their hair into that tree of life, the Antipodes are able to do something very similar, but they do it more so with their DNA. So not the way you're probably thinking, but in the form of, let's say, bites and things like that, right? Saliva. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this video was we obviously saw, and I'm going to be talking about it soon, that there are werewolves in Infinity the game, which I absolutely love because I feel too often people don't give werewolves enough should I say, enough credit, and usually it's the vampires that end up getting all the limelight. So it's really nice to see that the werewolves are getting some love here too, but it's not without reason, right? So the Antipodes don't look like the werewolves that we're talking about. The traditional werewolves come through a different process. So as you would imagine, on a planet that's scarce with humans, the number one thing that they're probably going to be trying to do is trying to replenish their ranks and to basically populate the planet that they're on, and therefore that leads to probably a large population of pregnant women. And when you are fighting these animals, if one were to bite you, they basically pass on their DNA into you, and that DNA gets passed on to during the gestation period of the newborn child, and then the newborn child takes on that DNA and becomes a hybrid of human and Antipode, which is how we end up getting the werewolf-like creatures that we see in the Ariadnian army. So that's something that's really, really dope, right? So it's not just, hey, if they bite you and you survive, okay, now you're going to turn into an Antipode. No, there has to be a very specific manner in which it happens, and what we've seen seen so far is that specifically when there is a baby present in a woman's womb and she is basically still during that gestation period, that you end up getting a werewolf-like creature that is born afterwards. So real quick, this right here is what an Antepode looks like. So as I mentioned before, it looks like a werewolf, but the front arms are more ape-like, in which they can carry something like a knife or a sword, as you see here. So it is not clear by which manner the Ariadnans are able to use them in their own military. As mentioned before, if you have one or two of them, they're not as bright as if you have all three of them together or more. And so it would seem to be that with, basically, I want to say chemical use and bio warfare, that I'm sure that they've been able to, in some way, shape, or form, domesticate some of them. So it's a bit of a gray area, and I'm going to have to get back to you guys on that kind of lore. So might not be all, sunshine and rainbows when it comes to this kind of alliance, but it never really is when it comes to military conflicts. So that is definitely something that you're going to have to take into consideration. But this right here is the werewolves that we are referring to. So unlike the Antipodes, they stand upright, though it would seem their arms are probably long enough that they could run on all fours. They are hybrids, but they have enough motor functions to be able to be holding weapons such as guns and such things like that. So definitely a lot more closer to a regular human, and a lot more closer to the werewolves that we're used to seeing in a lot of the basically in a lot of the media that we see today. So this is something that is absolutely incredible. I love the fact that there's a real reason for there to be werewolves in this series, and the fact that they were tied in a way that isn't just sort of, oh, here's just a random ass virus and now we have werewolves. No, they do come specifically from a species that's smart enough to be able to have its own tribalness. So this is something that's really impressive to me. Alright, Trial Mob, hot off the heels of the last Ariadna release that we got from Joytoy X Infinity, and here we're getting two more figures. Now, unlike the ones we got before, that are basically just infantry troops, we could say, these right here are closer to what we would refer to as like a leader class, right? So this is really cool looking stuff. I'm actually very surprised to see them coming out with this style of figure first, right? The fact that we're getting werewolves, that's insane. The fact that we're getting that this early in the release instead of, let's say, some other military figures is quite the bold move. Now, I'm a huge fan of werewolves. I'm a huge fan of lycanthropy type figures. So the fact that we're getting that, this is a must buy for me. But we're going to go over a few things in a second about this whole duo set, because these two basically fight together. They're partners, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's break it down. So starting off with our first character, we have Equip Mirage 5, the Lieutenant Margot Berthier. Okay, this is a pretty badass looking figure. So it's our first female character from the Infinity line. She looks pretty good. I like her a lot. Now, if you will notice this, I will say this, right? When it comes to these action figures for the Ariadna, know that Ariadna, while technically one faction, has four separate kind of like entities under them. So something that we're noticing here, right, is the first guys we got were, tan colored. Now here she is blue colored, and a lot of the Ariadna folks are green. So like there's a big difference here of figures that we're going to get, which is why I think Ariadna is kind of the perfect way to go, because you get to basically build out a whole myriad of different figures, and this is just one style that we're getting here. So she looks pretty badass overall. I like the red, what would you call that, bandana on her head. It's pretty cool. Now, I know many of you are going to enjoy her as a figure, so will I, but Sergeant Duroc is definitely the guy here. This is pushing the envelope for what Joytoy can and will do moving forward. Obviously they have the ability to make incredible looking figures, but this right here is something totally out of left park, and the fact that they were able to, so early do this, and there's no precursor for big animals that I think we've gotten from specifically Joytoy. So this is something that's very impressive to see so early on. Now, I wanted to make sure I touched base on this right out of the gate. Oh my God, Sergeant Duroc is absolutely massive. This guy towers over this figure, and as far as I can tell from some of the photos that we've seen, the Sergeant here is supposed to be more or less about as tall as a regular male figure, maybe the slightest bit shorter, right? So imagine a full-size, male figure right next to her, just the slightest bit taller. Sergeant Duroc is huge. Oh my God, I cannot believe how absolutely massive they made this character. I know that a lot of us had our reservations for the Primaris Space Marines and other figures that we got from Joytoy before because they were wildly out of scale. I think that as a community we've come together to agree on that. The people that do buy or the people that don't buy, everyone agrees that the Primaris were too small. Well, let me tell you guys right now, as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no limitations here when it comes to the Infinity line, because as you can tell, this guy has to be, if not is, not only one of the biggest, but is the biggest regular size trooper that we've ever gotten from Joytoy, right? So this guy's not supposed to be some kind of robot, and he's literally just another soldier, right? But he's supposed to be a massive soldier, and thank God they gave him the size that he deserves. Just a massive figure overall, and well detailed. Now this goes a little bit weird, right? Because of the massive size of this guy, he's basically going to be roughly 6 to 7 inches tall. If he is going to be that big, he's basically a 1/12 scale figure. Obviously not, but he'll fit alongside a lot of the other 1/12 stuff that's out there, which kind of begs the question, at this size and at this price point, when you get to this large of a figure, is there anything that Joytoy is missing in terms of potential articulation, things like that? So that's a question that you'll have to ask yourself, and whether or not it's really going to be worth the price tag when we do get such a large figure in person. But okay, so looking at our Sergeant right here, Margot, she looks great. She comes at least with a pistol. I like the blues, the overall jumpsuit that she's wearing. It's a really cohesive look. And then I don't know exactly how I feel about that red bandana up top. It just, the way she has it, it makes her look more like, I don't know, not necessarily a warrior, but regardless, still a cool looking fig. Now, obviously, we have gotten female figures before, but something about this one, I really like the way it looks. Her character does have kind of like that, how can I put it? Basically above the waist and below the breasts, she's basically showing skin. And then she's got that armor plate around the gut, obviously, to make sure that she can protect herself. So, I mean, it's a really cool aesthetic overall. I do like what they have going on here. And I can already tell people are going to want to do all kinds of head swaps with her, maybe from the PGV stuff, if those joints fit. So I can already see all the customs that are going to be made here soon enough. I definitely think the paint scheme is really nice. I think that they were able to accomplish a good look. Joytoy seems to look a bit more like their figures than Acid Rain does when you first see the promotional images, but usually not as good, right? The Joytoy stuff looks very nice, and then you kind of get it, and it's just slightly not as good. But regardless, I like the overall aesthetic. The gun she comes with is absolutely massive. I think that that's kind of hilarious, but it's a really cool looking gun. This reminds me of the one female from StarCraft that everybody really loves. I forget her name, but I feel like she was made in her essence. Now, I was able to get a few quick shots of what she looks like in person. This isn't a promotional image. This is her on a tabletop. We were able to get this photo. It looks great. I really like what they have going on here. I really hope, I don't know enough about Infinity to tell you guys what, group or infantry she's supposed to be fighting alongside of, considering she's got the blue armor instead of the tan or the camo green. So we'll have to see what comes out in terms of infantry to go along with her, but still pretty dope ass character. And then, of course, here we have a little bit of that close-up of the head. So really good looking head sculpt. I think this might be could be one of their nicer ones when it comes out. So we'll have to see once we have this in hand. Now, Duroc does not play, man. This guy is, so not only is he a massive figure, but he is also a werewolf, so he's probably got claws and he's got fangs. He's got a giant Bowie knife, but he's got these two just massive, I don't even know what you would call these, like laser guns or or some kind of large, firearm, and he comes dual wielding. Man, this is an impressive looking figure overall. I really hope that a lot of this detail makes it to the final product. It's a good looking figure. They did a lot of things here, different colors, different textures, different armor. Just, they knocked it out of the park. Listen, even if they didn't give us all this detail, on the simple fact that the sheer size of this guy is as big as it is, I'm almost okay with that. Obviously, we'll see what the price tag is when these guys do get released in terms of, what site you can get them from. Probably Locker Toys is going to have one of the better prices, so we'll have to see about that. But regardless, I think that this is going to be something that is going to expand Joytoy a lot, because if maybe you don't really care about the 1/18 scale figures, this is your first time looking at one of my videos and you're like, I don't know if I care about these Joytoy figures. This guy right here is big enough to stand next to almost any of your 1/12 scale figures and look like he's a part of it. So if you have military figures and you just want this guy kind of fighting alongside of them, you could. So again, I think this has a lot of appeal to a lot of people, especially the Furry Planet, I think, is the other brand that right now is doing kind of like large bipedal animals. I think that this is going to be right up your alley for that. And then here is a better shot of that gun that he's coming with. As I mentioned before, it's not a regular, it looks like some kind of energized weapon, and he comes with both of them. I think my only fear, as I mentioned before, is that in none of his photos does it look like his arms go to full 90 degrees. Joytoy, if you are listening to me right now, if you're watching this video, please do whatever you need to do. Cut out a little bit of that, forearm armor at the very top, but make sure that this guy can get enough articulation in the upper half of the body. As you can tell, there's not a single photo that I have where you can fully see if it can do that, but still, something to note. And then, of course, we were able to get a few of the in-hand photos. Man, look at this guy. It just, I cannot believe what we're getting here. Again, I hope articulation is limited, but as far as I can tell, detail, size, and the overall look of this guy is just, bar none, one of the best figures that I think we're going to get from Joytoy. This is just a taste of what Infinity the game has to offer when it comes to really cool looking aesthetics and really cool looking figures. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're a fan of Warhammer, the different factions and all the things that we've gotten so far, know that I think Infinity does it a little bit better. So we're going to have to go ahead and see how Joytoy is able to handle this moving forward. But again, I am impressed, and I hope that you are too. This right here is a great shot from the side right here. That tail is definitely very long. The Bowie knife is very long, but I think getting that good look of the face itself with the teeth and all that, again, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. Look at the shading in the legs. Just some of it looks a little darker. Some of it looks a little bit more furry. There's a lot of paint apps going on here. But that's basically everything we have today from Joytoy and Infinity. Please let me know how excited you guys are for future upcoming products from them, or how excited you guys are for this right here and what we're going to get moving forward. I really hope we get the Antipodes. I would definitely do a little army build of those guys. But until then, I will see you guys on the next feature. Deuces.